Hello, everybody. All right. Okay, my microphone is working. I wasn't entirely sure. Um, also wasn't entirely sure how studio mode works in OBS, but I figured that out. Hope you're happy for me. Okay, everything is working. YouTube is glitching. Twitch, mostly working fine, I guess. I don't think this thing is working. I need to check. All right, let me see. This thing being this thing here at the bottom. Okay, it is working. Cool. All right. Yes, everything is fine. Everything is good. A little bit surprised, but we're good. Okay. So, that light is a little bit too bright. And I don't know where the thing to adjust it is. Oh god, it got stuck. All right, hold on. Okay, that's better. That's not as bright anymore. Hello, Cursed Devil. Hello, everybody. All right, incredible, amazing news. I fixed the bug that I was having yesterday, in yesterday's stream. Yeah, big news right there. Call the press. Tell everybody. Okay. Yeah, so I was having some issues with passing arguments into a process. Now that's working fine. There's actually... Oh, this one came fast into the stream today. Not even 10 minutes in. All right, can you please build? There is one case that I didn't test, but yesterday it was crashing when doing this. That didn't work. That should have worked. Come on, man. Come on, man. This was working like 30 minutes ago. Come on. What are you doing? No. Don't do this to me. Are you fucking serious? It's crashing again. I'm gonna cry. I'm actually gonna cry. Holy shit. What do you mean section already hold on. Something's gone horribly, horribly wrong. Between like an hour ago and now. Well, here I was saying, no, yeah, it's totally fixed now. Well, it's fucking not. Holy shit. I was saying, oh, there's a use case that I didn't test, so maybe I should check that that works, which is having 2 arguments instead of just 1, but I didn't. Even just 1 is fucking crashing. Are you serious right now? Come on, man. This used to work. What happened? Oh. Very disappointed. What if I just don't do anything for the whole stream? I just sit here disappointed thinking about my life choices that brought me to this point. Yeah. How the fuck did this happen? I literally checked it. It was working. I stepped away from the computer. It's been like an hour. That was it. That was it. It was working. I committed it. And it was working. And now it's not anymore. It was work. I genuinely don't even know how to go about this, because what the fuck? What do you mean? Did I actually dream it? Now it's crashing. Did it just crash? Bro, what the actual fuck? What just happened? I am genuinely so confused by this because I genuinely left it. It was working. I haven't worked on it yet. My branch is clean. There's nothing happening on it. It was totally fine. And now it's not anymore. Now it just never works, sometimes crashes. And I was hoping to move forward today and actually go to like the next step of what I wanted to do, but now I have to fix this because I can't do the next part without fixing this part, and I'm going crazy. Oh boy. I swear it was work. I swear it was working. It was working. You have to believe me. You have to believe me. It was working. I have evidence, please. Oh, for the love of God. You need to seek professional help? I might need to seek professional help. What the actual fuck is happening? This is so confusing. Not even 15 minutes into the stream and I'm already losing my fucking mind. What just happened? Genuinely, what just happened? I don't understand. Yeah, so what? I wasn't crazy. I told you I wasn't crazy. Okay, so seems like a race condition. It's so fucking annoying. Bro, what the fuck? God. What just happened? Jester broke the code when you weren't looking. He was with me. We were in the living room just now. He was sunbathing. You couldn't have done this. Okay. 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 I don't know what's happening. I didn't even get time to actually explain what the fix was because the fix is not fixed. This is technically a different bug, so that explains a lot. Okay, it's actually from this line of code. But I didn't even have time to explain what the fix for the issue was because there's another one now. Are you fucking serious, bro? A file is being opened with a physical address, this one. And because it has this physical address, then the process cannot access it. So it needs to be given just a virtual address. A kernel virtual address. That's it. That's the only reason. Okay. Genuinely losing my mind here. I swear to God. This actually dealt me psychic damage. Shouldn't file necessarily be a high virtual address? What is happening there? Okay. So it's crashing most of the time because it's trying to access this variable here. It ends in B4. And we can see that variable nowhere. It's not printed. Or am I just not seeing it? It doesn't look like it's printed. Now it worked. Are you fucking serious? When I need you to crash, you work? Bro, seriously? See, two files are being opened here. And they have an FFFF at the beginning, which means that they're always going to be accessible, regardless of which process is currently mapped onto memory. Cool. But sometimes it crashes. And when it crashes, I'm not seeing any file being opened, and yet it is trying to access a file being opened that isn't actually being opened. So confusing. And my camera is, as always, messed up. There. I probably have to fix it before every stream. Okay, hello MX. You're here at a very exciting time, in which I fixed the bug from yesterday, and while I was going to explain how I fixed that bug, I ran into another one, and now I'm back where I started. I didn't even get to explain that. But essentially, yesterday I was having issues with the way that the stack, with passing arguments into command line processes. I fixed it. It's just that I was reserving space in the stack, but then I was changing the stack, not the stack pointer, in order to reflect that. So it was eventually being overwritten by the process. That's the short answer of what happened yesterday. As to what's happening today, I have no fucking clue. I was gonna work on something new. Not this. I didn't want to do debugging today. But I'm just really wondering. Oh shit, okay, hold on. The address is 0, not this. It's 0. My god. Okay. I'm just literally accessing a null pointer. That's the entire damn issue. Come on, man. Come on, we got this. Come on, man. Okay. That one worked. Oh, it's a race condition because, okay, sometimes, since the terminal and the cat process are technically separate, and the terminal is reading from the cat process, sometimes the cat process writes first, and then the terminal reads second. Sometimes the terminal reads first, finds nothing, but it still reads first. Then the cat process writes, then the terminal reads again, that's where it gets the data. But when the cat writes and doesn't find any open files at all, then it crashes. Except now it doesn't anymore. Now it doesn't anymore. We're just gonna ignore that happened, okay? I didn't try that a second time. No, actually, this is a separate story entirely. It seems like it is trying to remap certain sections that it shouldn't be, but it is literally a different story. I need to upload these streams in the playlist. The Redacted OS playlist? Not really. They're they're on YouTube, but not really. Not sure how I'm going to handle streams. Okay. I fixed that null pointer issue. That's, yeah. If you open the process twice, that crashes, but you know what? We're not going to look into that. You're just not going to open processes twice, okay? Cool. We're just going to be cool about this. Because I had something to do today and I didn't want to work on this. I'm just going to check one more time. Please don't fucking crash, otherwise I'm just going to walk out. Okay, we're good. Okay, and the use case that I didn't test before, that I need to test now, is what happens when you pass 2 arguments. Because I checked with 1 argument, I need to check with 2. Okay, fine. I'll have to fix this. God damn it. Are we serious here? Are we serious? Come on, man. I wanted to investigate how Unix pipe works and see what I want to copy from that. Now I don't get to. Oh, well, you need to check that this is also valid. Easy, easy, easy. Easy. It's a little bit more of a null pointer now. Okay. That didn't work. As in, it didn't write 100 bytes like it was supposed to. But hey, it didn't crash. Excuse me? Did it just stop working? Am I just losing my damn mind? no way. There's no way. Because actually, how did it just break? How did it just break? Can't move on to the fun when you got debugging to do. It wasn't gonna be fun, it's Unix. But hey, yeah, you've got a point. Genuinely, what is happening? Because like, we literally saw it working like a minute ago. And now it just doesn't work anymore. What the actual hell, bro? Oh, no, no, no. Okay, I understand what's happening. Okay, here's the deal. Like I said, the cat process is writing to its output. The terminal is reading from its output. If the terminal tries to read first, and it's like, hey, do you have anything for me? And the cat process hasn't been executed at all yet, then the answer is no. But the file that the terminal opens is already open. That's cool. So yeah, it's just like, okay, you don't have anything for me yet. I'm just gonna wait. But the file that it opened is already opened. So when the cat process writes, it is going to be like, okay, I'm writing to my own output. Is anyone looking for that? Is anyone interested in what I have to say for my output? And if there is something there, then it's gonna be like, okay, well, I am going to tell you about it. So when the terminal opens that file first, the output first, and then the cat process writes to it, the terminal detects it. If on the other hand, the terminal writes to the process, no, the cat writes to the process, and then the terminal looks, it is, I'm pretty sure there's actually a to-do for this. There's a lot of to-dos in here. Here it is. Could already have data. It's failing to read any data from the output. Because it's like, yeah, well, I'm hard coding the size to 0, so the terminal never reads anything. And because the cat never updates the file again, then the size of the file is never updated, so the terminal never realizes that there was actually data there. Okay. And it's a race condition because sometimes the terminal opens a file first, in which case it works. Sometimes cat writes first, in which case it doesn't. So, what can I do about this? Well, to be honest, I can keep track of it by just, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna do that. It's easier. The output, this one, since when do you have black nails? Since between when I coded the fix and when I came back and found that the fix was not working. Essentially. That's what I was doing in the living room. Just going to keep track of the... Actually, they're really messed up. That's not my middle finger. And I don't have anything to clean them with. I just realized that. So especially on my right hand, because I did it with my left hand. So I'll need to go out and get some thingy to fix them after the stream. Okay, we're gonna have to keep track of the output size. And I'm pretty sure the only place where we write to the output is here. Yeah. Because the output is not currently piped to just printf. So that's convenient for me because there's only one place in which I need to change the output. Anime background and design anywhere? That's sad. Okay, here. Proc what did I call it? Output size. Plus equal size. That is in this specific case. There we go. Okay. So there I'm updating the size. And now I can just get the process output size without this to do. It's hard to tell whether it works or not because you have to like check it multiple times. Because again, sometimes one executes first, sometimes the other one executes first, but when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I can tell you that much. When the pbuff is that, we write size to it, we update the process's output size to indicate the size. So what is your damn problem? Okay, tell me the output size. And then I'm gonna need to come up with a better system overall too. Maybe today after I fix this shit, I can design a system to do this better. Essentially files that are open by one and being written to by others. As they expand dynamically, how do we keep track of that? That needs to be a thing. Okay. Tell me what's going on here, buddies. Cat dev console. Now it worked. Fuck's sake, you weren't supposed to. But okay, it worked here. Process has written 0, and then it writes 1000, which is kind of an interesting number, but okay. And then okay, hold on. Okay, so yeah, here is what happened. in this case, where it worked. First off, it says process has written 0, which means that the terminal opens the file first, the output first. And it's like, okay, you haven't written anything yet, so I'll just wait. Then the process writes 1000 hexadecimal, which is a page's worth of logs. And which is, yeah, the maximum that it can possibly write. And then it tells the other one, hey, I've written this much, okay? Cool, letting you know. So the process sees that instead of 0, which was the previous size, it now sees 1000, which is the correct size. Now it works. Is there a chance that just adding logs randomly made it work? Like it was always supposed to? Oh, I'm pissed off. I swear to God. I hate when things just sporadically work and sporadically don't. It's like, what the fuck? What are you supposed to do about that? Now it always works. So again, somehow adding the prints fixed it? Or I don't know. I don't know. See, now it didn't work. Okay. Except it should have. Because it says here process has written 64. So that process worked. Process has written 64 means I opened the file after the fact and I found that there were already 64 hexadecimal bytes, so 100 bytes, already written to it when I opened the file. And then when I try to read, the funniest thing is it's not even multi-threading. That's the funniest part about this. We're just using one CPU core, one thread. We're not even bothering, but yeah, it is still... Oh, but what's the damn cursor? I swear to God if the cursor is involved here. Not cursor AI, fuck that shit. If this is to blame. Hey, Turkey. I went to Turkey last year. Nice country. Well, that worked. In a kind of recursive manner. I'm just gonna... Look, you know what? I'm trying to debug a very well hacked together system. Well, very poorly hacked together system. What the fuck am I talking about? Very well hacked together, come on. I'm trying to hack or fix a hacked together system instead of designing it properly, which is what I wanted to do today. So if I do that, then ideally it is going to be better. The cursor being the main antagonist across the streams would be so funny. It is the fucking main antagonist. It's been behind the scenes the whole time. So wait, it doesn't work multiple times. I forgot about that. Mira, vete a la mierda. So fucking tired. So fucking tired. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. I fixed most of these issues, but there's an underlying issue. I want to redesign the way that these kinds of files work. I wanted to do pipes, so we're gonna do that. And hopefully, in the process, it is going to fix this damn thing. Alright? So, Keep track of process output size. Good luck with today's stream and enjoy. Thank you. I am not on the main on the branch right now. I was so scared as to what was happening there. I gotta check that it runs. Although, it should. All we're doing is just not mallocing every single time. Mira. Mira, what the fuck? Bro, what the actual fuck? Wait. Where did the changes I made just go? Because I committed them. And it failed because I committed them to head. Did I just fucking lose them because I committed them to nowhere? Is that a thing that can happen? I did a commit to the head that was detached from the branch. Is it fully gone now? I'm just gonna read this message and ignore what just happened. I don't want to distract you, but I have to ask. I'm in love with these OS development, kernel dev, basically low-level programming. What would one advice to really get into the field? Just do it for fun. If I have to give you advice, just do it because you want to do it. And then, you know, there are professional outcomes for this. But as a starting point, I would say just that's how I'm doing it. So I don't know about professional side of it. But yeah, I'm doing it for fun. It's mostly enjoyable. Today has been fucking insane, but besides that, it is enjoyable. And maybe don't do things the same just because they're supposed to be done a certain way. Do them because you need to do them a certain way. Don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like a lot of people who make hobby operating systems are like, okay, I need to do this because this is the logical next step for an operating system. Whereas I like to do things because I want to do this. Like, it is the logical next step for me. Okay, that makes no sense. Let me start over. I feel like a lot of people do things not because it's the logical next step, but because like when you're making an operating system, there is a certain like number of features that you're supposed to have, and that you there's already ways of implementing them, so just implement them the same way that everyone else is doing. And I'm just like, can I do something different? Can I just do something that's adapted to my own needs? So in a hobby operating system, I'm not bothering with POSIX because I feel like those are standards set in the 1960s and forward that no longer apply. I feel like that was all over the place in terms of like coherence, but yeah, just do things because you want to do them, not because you're expected to do them in a way. If I had to put it one way. Okay, what the genuine fuck just happened to my files? I'm honestly not sure if I can get them back. But I do know where I made changes. So I can just Control Z. Today has not been a good day so far. It's been crazy. Fuck off. Fuck off. Doesn't work, but doesn't crash. That's the best I can aspire to right now. Fuck. Why is it not working anymore? Now it works. Okay, it works sometimes. You know what? I'm good with that. This is the second time I'm going to commit this. So crazy. But this is the fix. Keeping track of process, output, size, commit, please work. It's actually there this time. Okay. The fact that you can commit to a detached head and it just goes nowhere is insane. Why is that a thing? Genuinely surprised that that is a thing. I wonder if it just went somewhere that I'm not seeing right now. But the point of it being a detached head is that then you just lose it. So I'm not sure. The mysteries of Git design. Yeah, well. That suffers from the same problem that Unix-like systems suffer from. So what can I possibly say? It's just overtly complex. Then again, I'm not that familiar with how it works. Is it on reflog? What is that? See what I mean when I say it? I'm not super familiar with. You know what? It's fixed-ish. It should be fixed anyway. There is, like I said, still a race condition, but I feel like instead of going to debug it, I am just going to redesign the way that these kinds of files work. Because, yeah, I was testing this thing, so yeah. Didn't realize that would show there. Yeah, it has multiple texts now. Every minute it updates. Not sure what reflog is. The fact that, okay, no, I've heard of reflog. I used to read it as reflog, which is not the right word. The head has pointed to, okay, yeah. So it should be there. Let's reflog it. And this little bitch right here. And then moving from the commit to MMU means it's completely gone. All right. Happened to me as well, committing to a main branch and failing. I recall there being some place where the commits get preemptively saved or something. Okay, no, it didn't fail. That's what the thing that happened is that I was wondering if this commit over here, but keep in mind the first one wasn't there when I did this, right? So I was wondering if this latest commit broke the changes that I made like an hour ago. So I went back to this one. When you go back to this one, you're no longer on the branch. It actually tells you. We'll make your working copy a detached head, which means you won't be on a branch anymore. If you want to commit after this, you'll probably want to either check out a branch again or create a new branch. Is this okay? It is committed. It is committed. It does have a number. Technically, I could access it again. I already just Control Z and just got it back that way. But yeah, what this means essentially is that I wasn't on a branch. So when I committed, I didn't commit to a branch. And now I don't know how to access it from here. But yeah, with reflog, I can see it and then I can just access it from here. But we're not going to do that. It's not necessary. I already did it the manual way. Okay. So let's talk design for a little bit. Let's look into how Unix does things, which always ends up in content for a YouTube short. So no, I don't need it anymore. And also, the head was one commit behind, so I'm good with the way that it is. Okay, here's what's happening essentially. The terminal and the cat process are both accessing the cat's output, right? So the cat has a little output, and in that output is the contents of the file. Okay. I'm not entirely sure why it still fails sometimes, to be completely honest, but I can tell you why it was failing before the commit that we were just talking about. Essentially, the terminal creates the cat process. While it's doing so, the terminal has the CPU, so the terminal is the one executing. At some point in the future, which is determined by chance at this point, because there is a 25 millisecond switch between processes. So every 25 milliseconds it switches, but any input that you receive will slightly alter that. So it's not super precise. The terminal, what it can do is it can create the cat process and then continue to execute, or at which point it will try to access the cat process's output. Or what can happen is before it's able to access the cat process's output, it is interrupted, the cat process works, and this is where the problem begins. The cat process goes to look at the file that it was told, in this case dev console, right? It looks at that file and it's like, okay, well, you need me to write that into the output. The way that it was working before, when it was working before the fix, is that the first thing that was happening is the terminal was reading the cat's output. I feel like it's easier if I put them a little bit closer together. You can see, okay, this one comes first. Okay, so the terminal was reading the cat's output, at which point it found nothing because the cat hasn't written anything at this point. But in doing this, it opened a file. Which we're just going to call this for the sake of simplicity. It's actually proc / the cat's ID / output, but you know, the terminal opened that file. Okay, so it did that, even though it didn't find anything in that file. And then the cat process finally gets to execute. It goes into the console, reads the data from the console, writes it to its output. When it does that, that's where the code that was crashing comes in. It checks if there's any files open and informs those files, hey, your size has changed, okay? You're bigger now. Because the files... So, okay, it used to be 0. When it does this, it's like, okay, no, it's changed. It's now 6. 7, actually. And the next time that the terminal tries to read, it will read 7 bytes. So it will access the contents of the file and print them to the terminal. This is when it was working. Now, when it doesn't work is when things happen in the opposite order, which is to say, first this, then this. Okay. Essentially, the cat file, the terminal creates the other process. Before it's able to start reading anything, it yields the CPU. The cat process comes in. It's told to read this file. It starts reading the file, writes to its output. And at this point, there is no open file. So it's like, are there any open files that are trying to read my output? Because I want to inform them that I made a change, right? I want to inform them that the size of the output changed. And it doesn't find anything. So there's no one to inform about it. So when the cat output, when the terminal finally gets the CPU back, it opened the output and it started assuming that the size was always 0. So like nothing's been written yet, so nothing to be read. And when that happened, it was it never found anything because the output has already been written to. It just didn't realize that it wasn't 0, that there was actually content there. So the fix that I did is that I keep track of the output in a separate place. So now when you read the output, you're told the size of it. So you should read 7 bytes and already know that you should read them. But it doesn't always work. There is some other kind of race condition happening, in which case the terminal still doesn't read the contents of the file. But there's already a few things that I don't like about this. Number one is the fact that it's weird. The way that these processes are open is weird. So the cat actually doesn't open its output. This is a special file to it, so it doesn't need to open it. It just writes to that file descriptor and it automatically knows to write here, which is convenient, but not amazing because it doesn't keep track of that file being open. If the opposite was happening, so instead of the output, it was the input, then the terminal could write to its input and the same logic of like, is there any file open that's relying on the size of this input? Inform them about the fact that we changed the size. That cannot happen. That's simply not a thing. Because the cat doesn't open its input file. It's always open with a reserved file descriptor ID. So I need to find a solution to that. Also, the fact that we're currently doing like, oh, is there anyone who's also opening this file? Can you please tell them about? That can break super easily. How does it even match? Oh yeah, that the output is the same. That doesn't make any sense. So no. Essentially, no. It just checks that they pointed to the same place. It knows that this, can you please point to the input? And this are the same file because they're both pointing to the same place. So it goes through all the open files and it checks for one that is going to the same place as this one and then it updates. There are chances of that breaking. Oh, maybe I'm okay with that staying the way that it is right now, but it would be nice to unify it. And then there's, can't revert the logic. Well, to be fair, there is no input file right now. So that was just a hypothetical thing. But yes, you can, but you have to open the file explicitly. So cat needs to open the file for its input. Whereas, so it needs to do f open cat input, and then it needs to do f read. cat input. Whereas before, it was able to just do fread, well, file descriptor like 255 or 155 because I misspelled it. Whoops. So this would work, in which you open the file, you're given a descriptor, and then you read from that descriptor. That would work. But the convenient way of opening your input and output is that you just read file 2. You don't need to do open, and you don't need to find that file. You just say read 2, and that's equivalent to read the input without needing to open it. But because you're not opening it, you're not keeping track of it being open, so it's kind of a pain in the ass. All right, there's an ad starting soon, so I'm going to kind of design a solution to this problem. Let me keep these. Solution to this problem after 3 minutes after the ad is over, so I'll be right back. We are back. Hide your POSIX compliance and your Unix systems and Linux. Hide Linux. Hide Linus. I'm back. I didn't know what I was going with that one. Funnily enough, I love to shit on Unix while also thinking that the most stable operating system is the one with Unix code in it. Such are the little ironies of life. Is irony the right word there? I don't care. Okay. So I mentioned just now how there can be sync issues with the way that processes are communicating with each other, reading each other's input and output. And there is another thing happening, another issue on top of that. In order for these two processes to communicate, what needs to happen is that the cat process, actually, let me see in the code, right here. The cat process is opening two files. Oh, okay, I used file descriptor 2 to refer to input. No, it's output 2, input 1, but it doesn't matter. Okay. So the way that the cat process works right now is opens its own output. Although, like I said, you can skip that part, but yeah. Also, let's say when you're trying to read dev console from the cat process, then it has to open its output. It then needs to open dev console. And then it needs to read the output. No. Read the console and write it to the output. At the same time, the terminal needs to open the proc cat output and the proc cat state, which simply informs it of when the process stops executing, right? Because at the end of it, it stops execution. So the terminal also needs to keep track of that. So it opens two files as well. And what it does is it reads the output, a word that I apparently have forgotten how to spell. And at that point, it prints the result to the screen. Let's face it, the correct way of doing it. You know, because right now the output is actually separate from the print. It's a special file, but it's not connected to the print, but it should be, but it's not. So there's an extra step that once it's done properly, the terminal needs to read its output. Read the cat output and write it to the terminal output. A word that I have apparently forgotten how to spell. Cool. At which point it does this multiple times. While the process is open. Right? So this is the code shown in the most horrible way possible. What do you want? No. Not carrying you. Okay. Whereas, of course, Unix, in their infinite wisdom, have come up with that probably sounded ironic. It wasn't meant to, because this is genuinely a good thing that Unix has, and that I'm borrowing from them, just like I borrowed everything as a file, I'm borrowing pipes. Because Unix would make this a lot easier. Because all I have to do is pipe dev console to the output. Technically, it's not supposed to stop execution until you stop it. Well, let me see. What happens if I try to read runvert? Okay, it does stop. It does stop. So for some files, it stops execution. For some others, it doesn't. But anyway, the point is, it would be cool to just pipe the output of this file into its own output, or the contents of this file into its own output, stop the execution, and then all the terminal has to do is pipe the cat output to the terminal output. That's how you spell that word, by the way. New spelling just dropped. You know, and then we also need to close these pipes at some point. So this is how that works. And so this would simplify the process by a lot by just joining these two files together. The most horrifying reference came into my mind. I'm not gonna say it, but Jesus Christ, what the fuck is wrong with me? When I've thought of like typing multiple files back to back. Okay, so I want to investigate how Unix does this. Something that I find myself saying less and less, but somehow, yeah, occasionally. Yeah, to be fair, Unix had a lot of great things. It also had a lot of not great things, and a lot of things that were great when it was designed, but not anymore. So this is one of those that is actually still great. So I want to borrow this from them. So I want to see how Unix does this internally, how this is designed, and then how to implement it. Actually, I'm using Unix pipes in this script, for example, and also the one that counts lines of code, which is simpler. So here, find is one process, which finds the contents of all my C, C++, H, HPP, and S files, and then opens them, and then reads the number of lines. If I'm not mistaken, that's how that works, because I have to say, the name of processes in Unix is not super descriptive. Like, water closet, what is this? So, yeah, there's that. But, you know, these three processes are piped together. And when it comes to this one, which just does the same thing, but actually what it does is it just gets a random to-do and tells me to fix it. It's essentially a command line Jira. Oh, would you look at that? This to-do, need a better way to handle opening a file multiple times, is literally the issue that I was talking about that we're hopefully going to try to fix today. And also implementing pipes and whatnot. So let's design the backend part of the file system to actually work with being able to pipe processes together and to keep them in sync. So not just static files that can be open once, but like streams of files that can be updated while they're open. And also, piping two files together. And funnily enough, this to-do is specifically for the first part of that. So amazing. But yeah, the point of that is that okay, I gesture, but oh. Okay, is it back? For the love of God, this fucking internet connection just drops every once in a while. I am so annoyed. This has been happening for over a week now. And then I'm just randomly back. Just like that. It just freaks out for a bit and then it comes back. Okay. So this apparently is just a daily occurrence. Not sure who to blame this on. Yeah. Cool. Maybe I do know who to blame this on. Okay. Before I start investigating stuff, before this happens again, let me see if I can do something about this. ISP is the most likely culprit. There is technically possibility. It's the poor little Raspberry Pi 3 that's just sitting there trying to run Pi-hole and kind of suffering a little bit. So that's a possibility. Although, holy shit, why is my router so slow? What? I'm pretty sure this is just a shit website though. Yep. Nope. What is wrong with my router, bro? Weird. Okay. I'm not sure what's happening, but let me see if I can do something about it. Buggy router from scratch. Let's make a router from scratch. Fuck this shit. I just want to know if it's my router or the Raspberry Pi, and I'm hoping it's the Raspberry Pi, because if I have to rely on my ISP fixing shit, oh boy. Yeah, these guys are pretty fast. But this one ISP once kept me over a month waiting, because when I moved to a new apartment, they were like, oh, your apartment is not like connected to the internet, so we can't really give you service. And then I was like, can you connect it to the damn internet? And they were like, well, you see, the problem is that like we're just renting the infrastructure in your area. It actually belongs to this other company, so we cannot do anything about it. They kept me over a month waiting. And eventually, I was like, you know what? If I go to the company that owns the infrastructure in the area, which actually owns the infrastructure in most of the city center, not to say most of Spain, all of the city center, probably most of Spain, then I can just get my internet faster, right? Because they want to, if I'm a customer, they want to make money off of me as quickly as possible, so they'll do the installation as quickly as possible, right? So I did that. And the old ISP kept calling me every literally 2 hours to be like, hey, can we give you a better service? Please don't leave. Please don't leave. Eventually, I still left, obviously. I blocked all their numbers that they were calling me from because that is literally harassment. And then within 2 days of switching over to the new ISP, the guy came over and he was like, what did they tell you at the old one? That they needed to do a new installation? I was like, yeah. Well, they told us about it a month ago and we did it, but we also told them that it wasn't even necessary in the first place. So they kept me waiting for no goddamn reason for a month. And now I'm with the new ISP, the good one. But yeah, apparently they're kind of shitting the bed today. Or these days. So anyway, fuck all those companies. Why the fuck is the internet centralized like this? I wish it just fucking... The internet is so different from what it was designed to be. It's sad as fuck, actually. Not to mention, Cloudflare goes down and half the internet stops working. And on top of that, we rely so much on ISPs that can literally do whatever the fuck they want to us. Okay, I forgot where I need to go in order to check DNS. Okay, here it is. I couldn't find it. Okay, just... use this. Apply save. Stream might go down. Maybe, I don't know. BMX. Alright, is the stream still up? Seems like it. So, cool. No longer relying on my Raspberry Pi. Let's check. I'm terrified. I'm gonna take the stream down again. Okay. Permission denied. I got the wrong password. If it's not that one, then it's this one. All right, I'm in. You got a sudo reboot? Seriously? Okay. Is my stream still up? Yes, it is. Cool. And my internet is still up in general. Cool. YouTube seems to think that it's not, but every time I open the stream manager in YouTube, it takes like several seconds to realize that I'm even live. So wonderful, wonderful work on that one, YouTube. Okay. So I'm no longer relying on Pi-hole. If that was the problem, then this won't happen again. If that was not the problem, then this will happen again, and I'll have to be a Karen about this. On Monday. They stream on weekends, and then if I'm having an issue like this, it's going to have to wait until Monday, because... Okay. What even was that? No idea what's happening anymore. I think we're good. Was it the Pi again? Reconnecting or something? I don't know why I feel like blaming the Raspberry Pi. I'm just gonna disconnect it like physically, right? And hope that that doesn't break the stream. Okay. Can someone confirm that you are hearing what I'm saying right now? Please say yes in the chat. Just to make sure that, you know, I'm not connected to it anymore. Yes in the chat. Thank you. Okay, I just meant the word yes, but thank you. Okay. If it happens again, it's my ISP. Sorry, Raspberry Pi, shouldn't have blamed you. If it doesn't happen again, Raspberry Pi. Sad to see you go, especially because of the Pi hole. Okay. And YouTube comes in with a little bit of delay, but cool. Okay. So I'm just gonna start working, and if it happens again, it happens again. I guess I'll not know what to do. OSDev Wiki is not working today. Okay, we're going to the old one. My brother in Christ. What? Am I? I removed the DNS thing from my settings entirely. So how can it possibly be gone unless I just so happen to have it on this machine? On this one, it works perfectly fine. So this machine is having issues. All right, DNS. Yep. Wait, can I just not put anything in DNS? No, but why are you defaulting to that? Okay. Are we good on DNS now? Yes. A little weird that IP address, router, that's okay. Details. DNS. If I remove this one, it defaults to the address of the Pi hole. Which is weird. It shouldn't do that. Unless it got that from the router. And now it... No, this one's also taking DNS from the same place and it still works. Yeah, this one works. This one works too. Okay. I guess there's some configuration that they're getting from the router and they were getting an old one. So we're back. Okay, OSDev Wiki could literally just be down at this point. This one works. Okay, so that's just OSDev Wiki. All right. For the love of God. They have an entire article on Unix pipes. Amazing. Okay. This is what I want to do. Okay. I'm just a little hesitant to actually start working just in case everything like fails again, but adding more Unix to redacted. I feel like it's a necessary next step. If you're gonna have everything as a file and you're not gonna have pipes, that's stupid. Imagine your internet is dodgy all day and then when it fixes itself, OSDev Wiki independently goes down. Oh, OSDev Wiki is always down, so I'm not super surprised by that. You're doing pipes now and getting PTSD? Also, hi. Let's try to modernize them a little bit. Let's try not to do the exact same like pedantic shit that POSIX does. So we'll see what we can do to make them as simple as possible. And it really bothers me. There's just one nail that I really messed up. It looks really ugly. And I don't have anything to fix it with. Okay. Pipes. Pipes, socket pairs, and FIFOs, or first in, first out, I've never heard them called that, but okay, are techniques that allow two processes to exchange data through a stream of bytes. Unlike files, however, pipes and friends do not consume disk space, but instead have a usually circular buffer within kernel. If the buffers become overloaded, like the consumer is too slow, the producer will be turned into waiting state by the system. See, we're not doing that. No. Pipes are usually one-way streams with a producer side and a consumer side. Note that this is perfectly possible to have multiple producers and of multiple consumers, though multiple consumers tend to make things hard to use. I would have thought multiple producers would have made it hard to use. But okay, there is a thread in the forum on this subject, stream-oriented programming, which is, what I'm trying to do, so we'll read that one too. Because, the only thing better than the OSDev wiki is the OSDev forums. Oh boy, you just love that shit. From 2007. Some of y'all weren't even born back then. Besides the usual scale issue, by the way. Besides the usual shell scripting use of pipes, where like grep and less are linked together so that grep's output becomes less input with grep kernel less, several Unix programs use these techniques to pass data around pre-build processes. To pass data around the pre-build process. Took me way too long to realize that lighting and lightning are spelled differently. I always struggle to remember which one I'm supposed to say. One of the most notable examples being Qmail. When running GCC, for example, the pipe flag will use pipes instead of temporary files for intermediate compilation results, thus speeding up compilation. It does? Genuinely learning about that for the first time. God, that nail's really bothering me. They can be used by terminal emulators due to connected teletype devices. See, I fucking love this. Oh my god. It just smells like the 1980s. With the shell standard input and output. When the command is executed, the shell uses the inherited file descriptor with the child's process's new descriptor to create a new pipe and connect the child's input and the output with a teletype device. For those of us born after 1930, this is a teletype device. This is what our entire computer infrastructure is built on. You know what? This thing, all modern digital infrastructure, I would say, oh, yeah, my mouse is not actually on it. But one of these pillars, like over here on the right side, is 1960s, 70s, and 80s technology. Is it next week yet? It is. Is it next week yet? Have you seen the three-body problem? Okay, Actually, I have. First off, I'm going to complain because it's not a movie like I thought it was. It's a TV show. And second, it is a masterclass in how not to write a TV show. The biggest drink company in Germany still runs on Windows 3.1. A few years ago, they had a job listing for the Windows 3.1 admin. What is a Windows 3.1? I don't even know what that is. Holy shit, look at that. Oh my god. Oh, it even brought out the old man voice. Holy shit. Alright, so about the three body problem. I'm sorry, but it looks like it has an incredible premise. It looks pretty cool. But it is genuinely so poorly written as a TV show that it's like, wow, how did you even fuck up this badly? The first episode is like an hour long, and there's maybe 10 minutes worth of anything important in it. There's like, I genuinely like rewatched this scene twice because I was genuinely so in disbelief at what was happening. The entire premise, I don't know what the show is actually about because I've watched 2 episodes and like I have a vague understanding of it, but they haven't bothered explaining the premise. They haven't bothered in the slightest explaining the premise of the show. But like, okay, apparently there's something happened, something, I don't know what it is because I haven't watched past the 2nd episode, that just like made it so that the last 60 or so years of physics has been proven to be wrong. Huge premise already. You tell me that, I'm like, I'm invested. Cool. And then they don't explain it. Throughout 2 episodes that I've watched, this is never explained upon. How did they come upon this discovery? What discovery is it? What happened? No fucking clue. All I know is it's happening. It's actually so bad that scientists are committing suicide. But they're not committing suicide because of that. They're committing suicide just in mysterious circumstances. It's gruesome and horrible. And there's this investigator that's like investigating all of these different scientists all over the world killing themselves. And in the first episode, we see him like investigate a dead person, going to the funeral of another person, taking pictures of other scientists that attended her funeral, tailing one of them until he loses track of him at an helicopter, and then like the entire first episode, he's just doing that. And then at the end of the episode, he spends 2 minutes on the phone explaining in just words what he did throughout the episode. Like, oh yeah, well, I went to the funeral. Yeah, I saw them there. I took pictures of them. Yeah, then I tailed this guy. No, I lost him when he got in the helicopter. Like, we already saw that. Why are you explaining that to me? Why are you repeating this scene? And then the scene lasts like, I don't know, 5 minutes. The last 30 seconds actually give us relevant information that moves the plot forward. It genuinely feels like, let's just pad. Okay, we're going to make a movie about this? Oh, a TV show. How many episodes? Oh, there's not that much material for like a TV show. What are we going to do? And then they just padded it with as much bullshit that they could possibly fit into it. It is Netflix, yes. It's the 3 body problem. This shit. This is the investigator. You spend an entire episode following what he's doing, only for them at the end of the episode he explains to someone else what he's doing. Genuinely just wasting time. And then at the end of that scene, he's like, oh, by the way, in Iran, a completely different scientist that we haven't talked about until now had this weird mask on him. So that's a lead. That's an important thing. And then in the next scene, you see 2 characters just yapping for 5 minutes. And then at the end, they reveal that the woman who killed herself at the beginning of the episode also had one of those masks. So like those 2 scenes back to back are like supposed to be connected to each other. Like they introduce a concept and then they tell you how the concept ties into the story. Cool. But there's 10 minutes of bullshit in between. And like I said, the main premise of the show has never been expanded upon in 2 episodes that I've watched. But I'm invested. That's the problem. So I might genuinely just read the books because like fuck that show. How many episodes would I have to force myself to watch before I 3 seasons? No. 2026 is season 2. It's dumbed down a lot. It's not even dumbed down. It's just so poorly written. And I feel like, okay, I know that I'm seeing in chat a lot of people just telling me skill issue for watching Netflix. But genuinely, I've seen this in so many other places. The other day, I wanted to play The Witcher 3 because when I played it the first time, I didn't enjoy it. Actually, before I move on, another thing is I feel like British TV shows are required contractually to have at least one character or one actor from Game of Thrones or Harry Potter. And if it's one that's been in both, immediate choice for that one. So this dude and this dude, like the second I saw them, I was like, yeah, makes sense. They're British, so they gotta have a Game of Thrones or Harry Potter actor. Now that Maggie Smith died, a lot of older women are able to get new roles now that she's not getting them. But for everyone else, any other demographic in the UK that's an actor, sorry, that role is taken up. 1,800 pages combined? Okay, not bad. Like when I was playing The Witcher 3, the first time, there's one thing about it that I really didn't enjoy, and it's the fact that like the story, they keep telling you like, oh, you need to find Ciri. But then the writing is just done like every time you're about to find her, something happens and then she's not where you were expecting her. So you just have to go to the next place and the same thing happens again and again and again. Like that really bothered me about the writing. But I was like, okay, you know what? It was still a good game, so I want to give it another chance. I had an hour to play. During that hour of play, I watched a cutscene. After that cutscene ended, I watched another cutscene. After that cutscene ended, I watched another cutscene. Then that was the infamous like bathtub cutscene. After that, you get to play. You're in a room. You get to walk around the room until you exit the room, at which point there is a cutscene where you talk to, I forgot the guy's name, but like Gerald's friend. After that, you have another cutscene where they introduce the character of Ciri. Then after that, you have another cutscene where you talk to Ciri. Then after that, there is going to be a part where you and Ciri go downstairs. Then a cutscene. Then a combat tutorial. Then a cutscene. Then a cutscene. Then a little combat. Then a cutscene. Then you get to ride a horse for 30 seconds. Then a cutscene. That was 45 minutes of playing the game. At which point I was just like, I'm out of time. I'm not giving this game another try. Fuck that. I wasted so much time watching that damn movie. It felt like an entire episode of a fucking like TV show. I'll admit it's better written than the average Netflix show, but still, isn't this a video game? Can you please let me play the damn thing? Like, and when I play an average like AAA video game nowadays, this is how I'm playing it. It's just me sitting there looking at the screen. That kind of writing really annoys me. It feels super like self-indulgent. Like, oh my god, we have this super vast world, all this lore. We have to explain it to you, otherwise you're not gonna get it. And then the lore that people actually care about is like the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, which is just some guy being like, yeah, I made a game and they told me that the characters were shit, so I turned them into animatronics and I made it into a horror game. And I put a date and a paycheck in a little asset that I thought nobody would pay attention to, but they did. And now I have to like come up with some lore. That's the lore that people are super invested in. And yet writers are just like, we need to explain the world in detail. Otherwise, you're not going to understand. How we got into this topic is because of the 3-body problem that somebody recommended last time, and I watched it and I just hated every second of it because it suffers from that self-indulgent, ridiculous, pointless writing. It just feels like busy work. Most of it just feels like busy work. But how many books are there? 390 pages, but this is the first one. Then this is the Dark Forest. Then there's Death's End. And that's it. Okay, there's 3 books. Cool. That seems a lot less annoying than having to watch that show. Cool, I might give this a try. It's been a while since I've read books because I never find anything that I'm interested in. I barely even paid attention during the show. You're not missing out on anything. There's nothing you need to pay attention to. It's literally just busy work. The first episode is like, oh my god, something horrible has happened. By the way, these two, yeah, they used to date. Yeah, they're broken up now. Yeah, but something horrible has happened. Oh, and that guy? Yeah, fired from his job. But something horrible has happened. He's a teacher. I'm just making it up because I don't remember. All the yapping just left my brain, so I don't remember exactly what happened. But yeah. Unix pipe used to take. Kind of. Yeah. A 4th semi-official one that started as fan fiction that got released with the permission of the original author? Interesting. Yeah, like I'm sure the book also goes in depth into that stuff, but like when it's relevant. Not just randomly like, oh, instead of telling you the premise of the show, we're gonna talk about how these two used to date. All right, so instead of talking about Unix pipes, I started talking about Netflix's shit writing and CD Projekt Red's shit writing. So let's get back on topic, because I'm doing the exact same thing that they do. Then again, the stream is called Making an Operating System and Yapping. This is the yapping part. Okay. So, teletype stuff. Actually, the exact came for the OS state for the yapping. See, I said it in the title. You were told about it. You were informed that there was gonna be yapping. So no, not your bad at all. I like to complain about shit. What can I say? The worst part, like the part that really bothers me about it, is that the show really seems like it has promise, but like the concept of it has promise, but the show doesn't. So yeah, I might just read the books. All right, this is the exact example that I was looking at. If you issue a cat command in a terminal, that's how the file's content from the cat's std out gets to the dev tty1. This is an operating system. Okay, no, to be fair, this is an operating system wiki, but they're talking about Unix. So obviously they're going to use Unix concepts. Okay, I'm not even going to complain the way that I was going to, because yeah, it's just, reading this just feels so antiquated. I feel like I'm in Stranger Things, which is read by the TTY kernel subsystem to render the appropriate characters on the console. Okay, so the case that I want to go for, the use case that I want for pipes, is specifically one that they used as an example, so great. I don't feel like it's structured weirdly. I just feel like, again, it could have been made into a short film, or, into a movie instead of several episodes, and you would have made a great movie. But then they made it into whatever the fuck the show is, and they just had to pad it out with bullshit. Okay, implementation using two commands, pipe and mcfifo, new from McDonald's. Make first in, first out. Both act in similar ways. By the way, completely irrelevant, but I just remembered I'm going to change the shit out of the cat command's name. I am not calling it cat anymore. Because if I call that one cat, then I'm going to have to change the names of a lot of other processes. I'm not going to call it dog. The idea of it is to call it something understandable. So read or open, something like that. Not really read or open, because those are not super accurate. For lack of a better name, I can call it read or I can call it open. But cat is not descriptive at all. So I'm not Unix-like. Well, I'm kind of Unix-like, but I'm not POSIX compliant. So I'm going to change the name of it from cat to file read or open file open. No, open. I might actually keep the open command that Unix has, which opens the file in an editor. But probably read. I'll probably go with read. Maybe 2 movies, part 1, part 2, for each of the books. So 6 movies, or like a limited series with like 3-4 episodes. What is cat short for? Concatenate. The way that it works, that's another thing. Cat makes sense if you're concatenating, but we're not doing that. It joins 2 files together. Now, as to what the point of that is, I don't know. But yeah, it joins 2 files together. And if you only pass 1 file, then it just opens that file. It stands for concatenate and is used to display the contents of files. But you can see that literally, like, the main use case is to open 1 file. So actually, I've never used it with 2 files. What is the use case of this? I swear to God. Why would I need this? Cat concatenate. It makes sense. It's just that, yeah, technically it takes 1 argument, which is the first file, and another optional argument, which is the second. Well, I'm assuming they're not both optional. They are both optional. Good to know. I've never heard of cat being used to concatenate. I didn't even know. And I didn't even know that the second... actually, I could have just looked at this. And it says right here that it's optional. This is usually used to indicate optional. So yeah, I could have just read that a little closer, but... Or man-cat. Man-cat. Which I'm pretty sure is just a furry, but yeah. Number the non-blank output lines. You can number them? I did not know that. Display non-printed characters. Set an exclusive advisory lock on the standard output file descriptor. Number the output lines. Oh, non-blank or all of them? Okay. Display non-printing characters. Those look like the same, but whatever. Disable output buffering. Display non-printing characters again, so they're visible. Cool. Well, cat stands for concatenate. Mine doesn't do that, so we're not doing that. The one person that uses those, who uses those actually? Like, I mean, Didn't we say M? Or was it N? It was an N. Or B is the other option. It just numbers them. Yeah, so I might just make it read. Is there a read command? There is a read command. So I want to make my own names, but at the same time, I'm trying to not, copy the names that Unix uses, so as to create as little confusion as possible. Oh, built-in commands. That's what the read is. So what do I do with read? Not external. Oh, right, because it's shell. Right. Okay, there is an ad coming up already. Happens when you have internet problems and then spend the rest of the time yapping. Freed and change freed to something else that won't be confusing. No, read is actually just a shell thing. So I can just call my command read. I'll just call it that. I think it's better than cat. Cat just doesn't make sense. The only reason you understand cat is because you come from Unix, but if you don't come from Unix, or, I don't want you to need to have prior knowledge to use this thing, then I'll call it something else. Also ls, mv, cp, what's the other one that we saw before? wc. Like, they're so confusing with the way that they're named. Awk, grep. Find makes sense, sort makes sense, head makes sense, cut makes sense. Sargs. A little bit confusing. All right. Streams chat don't let you do new lines. Probably so you don't make very long messages. Cat concatenate is like innate knowledge instinctual. No, it's not. It's innate or instinctual if you've been using Unix for a while, but give it to a person that doesn't know how to use a terminal. Teach them how to use a terminal and tell them cat, obviously, to open a file. They're not going to know that. Teach them about open count. Look what they've done to Unix. Look what they've done to Unix. If you open another file that Apple doesn't freak out about, which I literally made, then open will just open a file. So read should read the file. Cat is not intuitive. Global regular expression print. Holy shit, I had no idea. I was about to look it up. That's what grep stands for. It doesn't tell you here, does it? Wait, there's fgrep? That is not a bad name. It's just not intuitive. Then again, Unix, like my biggest issue with Unix, it wasn't made to be intuitive. It was made to be technical. And if you want people to use a system, like the average person to use a system, you either have to make it intuitive or hide all the non-intuitive technical parts from it. Apple does the second one, which is why Apple is easy to use. They have all the Unix stuff, but it is hidden. Linux does not. Linux is just like, yeah, fucking learn it. Don't be a little bitch about this. Its name comes from the ed command grep, global regular expression print. Where did you get that from? Oh, here. Ubuntu does a good job of hiding it. Still have to use the terminal every other day. Also, I found it so funny when my networking randomly broke on Ubuntu and they were like, yeah, so you just do apt get. Did you not see a problem with that when you came up with that answer? When my networking is broken, all I need to do is access a remote repository. What macOS needs is an AI agent built into the core of the OS, otherwise it will fall into obscurity compared to Windows. Boy, do I have news for you. And you know the worst part? Because Apple, at the very least, if they're going to do something so shitty, they're going to do it right. They actually have this. There's Apple Intelligence, but it's local to your computer for the most part. They also have a deal with Open AI. I was gonna say ChatGPT and OpenAI, and it almost came out OpenChat, but no, that's not the name of it. Or Chat AI. But they have a deal with ChatGPT for anything, like that. But they do have it. Is it the YouTube on delay high? The delay on YouTube high? Wasn't it Google, not OpenAI? I think it's OpenAI. I'm not sure. I disabled that. Also, Siri is just really shitty. Let's not pretend. So it relies a lot on OpenAI. Damn it. Yeah. Usually, I set up my streams to have low latency. That failed today, apparently. So, oh well. Yeah, so we don't care about grep. We care about pipes. The pipeline, the Unix pipeline. Oh shit. Gonna get Greenpeace to protest this one too, huh? Actually, very fair, but still. It's a set of processes chained together by their standard streams. It has to be? Like 15 seconds? Is it always done between input and output? Because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to pipe two files together. I don't care about... See, okay, so what I'm doing is already not Unix-like. Oh well. Aww. What a shame. Oh no. I can actually hear you all crying right now because I'm not Unix-like. What a shame. What a shame. Jester? Jester, are you crying? Don't cry, Jester. It's okay. It's okay. I can hear Linus Torvalds seething right now. If you hear my doorbell and I don't come back, call the police. Linus Torvalds got to me. We saw that he's like a... No, he's not a karate champion. He's like a married to a martial arts champion, so... He probably learned a few tricks here and there. Or he's just gonna send her, I don't know. When I was new to Linux and trying random distros, when this image didn't come with any Wi-Fi tool because it assumed people would be on Ethernet only. Redacted OS. Terminal pipe and POSIX pipe. And it does seem weird that you can only pipe input and output. Version 3 Unix. This is a funny thing. Is okay, it's technically not like 1969 design. It's what, 1973? I don't know. Even MS-DOS borrowed it. And Redacted OS. Standard streams, std out, std in. Executed concurrently. Physical pipeline. Hiding of internals. In most Unix-like systems, all processes of a pipe. No, okay, hold on, because Unix pipe. When this one was talking about Unix pipe, it was talking about piping together multiple files, or actually, they're not real files. They're just buffers within the kernel. Yeah, so this is about the terminal part of the pipeline. Wait, hold on. I need to see the unpopular culture part. The robot in the icon for Apple's Automator, which also uses a pipeline concept to chain repetitive commands together, hopes a pipe. Oh no. Not anymore. Shit. They modernized my Automator, bro. What have they done to you? He doesn't have a pipe anymore. Are the buffers like Emacs buffers? Oh god. Microsoft had the awesome idea to randomly replace N with RN when you're piping data. But RN is another concept that I fucking hate. Oh my god. The Raspberry Pi forces me to... No, not the Raspberry Pi. UART forces me to use it. Fuck that. STD in, STD out. Everything is a file. Anonymous pipe. Pipeline computing. Yeah, I don't think it's limited to STD in, STD out. I think this is about process. Terminal pipes. Like the vertical bar that I showed before in that command, but that's not about... Because FIFO communication channel may only be used in one process, in one way inter-process communication. Okay, so it's this one. How am I supposed to say it? Standard in, I'm assuming, but yeah. I don't know, you spell it. I'm gonna say it both ways. Anonymous pipe is what I meant, yes, exactly. Or there's also the anonymous named pipe. Amazing fucking name on that one. Yeah, so it's this one, but I wanted to know about their implementation of it, which nobody is talking about. Well, you are, hold on. But you're talking about the Unix ones. Internally, the pipe is normally a circular buffer or queue and 2 or more semaphores for locking. Man pipe. Incredible. Even better than Mencat. According to this, because named pipes are in the file system, so anonymous named pipes are not. I don't even want to know. I just want to know how they do it. Circular buffer or queue and 2 or more semaphores for locking. The size on Linux is typically around 4 kilobytes, which is actually the same size that I've made my standard out. Man touch. Man touch the man pipe. What size is your pipe? Yeah, 4 kilobytes. Manhead. Only one. Okay. Okay. Um. You got men touch. You got men pipe. You got men pipe stream. Men stream is not a thing, I think. No. Men head. What is wrong with... Why do I feel like this stopped working? Oh? Is my stream going down? What's happening? Not entirely sure what's going on. It did lag for a bit for me. It lagged. Okay, OBS didn't even report it. Lagged for a bit on YouTube. Also, I missed your message. I'm Italian and Venezuelan, but I live in Spain. Well, that message didn't show up on the screen, but yeah. Is that what? Western Europe? Southern? I don't know. I mean, it's probably easier to determine if you're from Western or Southern Europe than it is like in the US, because what the fuck is even going on there with the Midwest being East? But yeah, people kind of debate. No, my nail. Oh well. What the hell? The coat of paint just like peels off that easily? Cool. Anyway. Okay, so if I want to implement East and West Coast is correct, I hope. Yeah, but like tell me if you see a problem with this being the Midwest. It is almost exclusively East. And it's because it's based off of the old map. Well, sorry. You stole a bunch of native land. And now you still call this the Midwest? That's a skill issue. But yeah, the East Coast is on the East and the West Coast is on the West. That part is true. Okay, I'm just putting my hair back. Okay, so Unix pipes are implemented with a circular buffer according to the OSDev wiki and literally nobody else. Cool. There is a stream-oriented programming which I was interested in. I saw someone get mad. They called Southern because it was in the South. In Europe or in the US? Because yeah, that I feel like both of them, actually. Yeah, look, like California does not count as the Southern US because Southern and Western are historical concepts, not geographical concepts, but just like Why? 1 hour a stream is usually putting your hair back. Well, sometimes I also like, you know, I pull the... And now I gotta do it again, fuck's sake. Why did I do that? Just for the... Okay. I did that like shit. I have to do it again, but I'm gonna wait for the ad, because otherwise I'm gonna prove you even more right than I already proved you. Yeah, those concepts are like very historical, not really geographical. Because like, I'm from South America, so I should be from the American South, but apparently the fuck I'm not. You have Central, Eastern Europe here. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, is Spain Western Europe or Southern Europe? Some people would consider it to be both. Well, no, I don't think that anyone would consider it to be both. They would just consider it to be, oh my god, no, this is super uncomfortable. I'm just gonna prove you right, Iron. I don't care. You're right. It is just me fixing my hair. It is just too uncomfortable. Okay. So we're reading all of this word by word, okay? Stream-oriented programming? Question mark. By Free Feb 02 2007 2:37 p.m. Hi, comma. I just wanted to ask for some opinions. Okay, let's not fucking do this. Okay. An idea that he had some time ago, based on the same principles as Unix pipe, but on a lower level. Yeah, I feel like pipes is not really what I want. What I want to do is I want to chain two files together. Which is not the same as a pipe. That's why I want to... I mean, it is, but it isn't. Maybe it is. Just internally you copy from one into the other. In the same, not necessarily in the same process. Okay, so here's what I want. The way that my terminal and cat work right now is they need to open files. Let's ignore that part. The cat is told that you need to read this file. So see, that's the thing. I'm talking about how to implement cat properly, essentially. Joining two files together, but not concatenating them. Just taking the output of one and putting it in another is what I'm trying to do. That is a pipe. But, okay, what it's doing right now is opening its own output and then opening the console, reading the console, putting that into a buffer, then writing the buffer into the output, and then it stops its execution. And the terminal then has to open its own output, the cat's output, and then take the cat's output into its own output. Whereas instead, it would be cool if you could just pipe them together. That's the terminal pipe. Yeah, but that's for STD out specifically. I'm talking about the overall implementation, but yes. Essentially, input file, output file, chain them together. That's it. So the contents of this one end up here. That's it. That's it. That's the plan. Okay. All source code objects are implemented and designed on the pipe metaphor. So every object runs and has a pointer to its entry stream and a pointer to its exit stream. This way, all the code does is process streams. That's an oversimplification of how computers are today, and perhaps more flexible. I think CD calling convention in IA32, I have no idea what that means, has indirect stream processing built in, however, only for input streams. The input pointer is saved in the, okay, we're talking about x86 architecture, no idea what that means. The terminal pipe does file std out, std in, file 2. Yeah. Whereas I'm talking about, no, this is what I wanted to open. Right, so my plan is to read from this file and print that into the terminal's output. Right now, the way that this is happening is through the process cat's output. And the way that it works is cat reads console. Well, actually, it does it inside of a buffer. Cat reads the console, outputs it to its own output, which right now is done manually through files, but it should be done through print. Just haven't done that connection yet. Then the terminal process reads that into a current buffer, and then it outputs it to its own output, which actually it doesn't, it writes it to print. But like I said, those two things should be the same. So for the sake of this example, that's how it works. Which, funnily enough, because it goes through print, it actually just ends up back in the same file. But that doesn't matter. The point is, this is the way that it works, and there's two buffers here and here that are not necessary. Whereas instead, all I want is to chain them together. Essentially, to tell the file system itself directly, hey, whenever there's output to dev console, you're going to put it also inside of cat out. And whenever there's output inside of cat out, you're going to put it in terminal out. That's kind of what I want to do. But keep in mind, this can be literally any other file. So that we don't think about it in terms of standard in, standard out. It can be any files. No idea how to do it. Yep. That's why I was looking into pipes, but not the best way to do it. Okay, I'm thinking, which is dangerous. But I think if I mix it together with the other problem that I was having, it might give me an answer. Which is that dev console. No, not really a dev console. Okay, so there was a sync problem between these two. Sometimes the terminal would read from the app. Well, it still happens, just happens less. He's way asleep. It happens less, but it still happens, in which there's kind of a race condition between the terminal process and the cat process. If the cat writes to its output before the terminal reads from it, so before the terminal even opens that file, right now there is no link between the two, if you will, that tells it like, hey, how do I put it? He did it on purpose. He was just awake. You just wanted to prove you wrong. Okay. Yeah, because of a quirk in the system. I explained what it was when I fixed it, but there's still another one that makes it happen too. Essentially, opening a file, when the cat process writes to cat out, it looks for other processes that are pointing to the same place, and it goes, hey, by the way, I've updated the file. Okay, so now you know. There's more information for you to keep track of. So the terminal then goes, oh, I have information to read. Let me read it. And then we see it on the screen. But if it happens in the opposite order, whereas the terminal doesn't have time to open the file to read it. So the terminal doesn't open this one. The cat process opens it, writes to it, and then it's like, is anyone interested in updates for this file? No, because the terminal hasn't opened the file. Then I'm just not going to inform anyone about it. And so when the terminal opens the file, I was hard coding that the file's size was 0 before. That was the bug. But, well, the limitation, because I knew about it. When you know about it, it's not a bug. It's a non-implemented feature. It's a limitation of the system. But yeah. When the terminal later on opened the file, it was like, okay, there's nothing in the file, right? So it didn't know about it. So it never got to read what was already there. Because it always defaulted to whenever I open the output of another process, I assume there's no output to be read already. I only want to know the output from here on out. And the output of the process was already written, so it skips that. And so it never got to read the contents of the console. Like an observer pattern is kind of the way that I very quickly hacked it together, but that's not the way that I want to do it. Ideally, we would have a global like state for the file. And that could make it so that I could implement pipes easily. So whenever anyone opens proccat out, because the way that it works right now is, yeah, both processes are opening the same file, separate from each other. And what I'm doing is just looking at, okay, is anyone also opening the same file? Yes, then I'm notifying you about the change. But that's super shitty. Yes, the G word. We're bringing out the G word. Instead of opening the same file twice separate like this, I mean, on a file system API level, yes, you're opening the file twice. You have two different references to the file. But in terms of internally inside the file system, I believe there should be a global state of the file that just tells you this is the file that's open right now. Just one of them. And so that way you have file ID 600 and the cat process has file ID 2, which is reserved for output. And both of these really just point to the same place. That's the way that it should work. So that, oh, you want to know the size of the file? You take it from here. You want to know the buffer of the file? You take it from here. And I believe then if I implement this, then all I can do is create separately a pipe that also works in the same way. The pipe is given 2 file descriptors. Very high one, apparently. And this one points here. This one points to this, but that doesn't matter right now. And when this one gets updated, then this one already has a global state to go check. And then be like, oh, okay, you updated this file, so I'm going to update this other file. Feels like a plan. Yeah, bring that back. Okay. There's other problems with the way that files are opened right now. We're not keeping track of opening a file for reading or writing, which is a thing that should be happening. And also the way that like a symlink type of thing, no, because it's not that the content, this file is the same as this file. It's that automatically the contents of this file get copied into this one. You could actually have multiple pipes into the same one. And so the contents of these two get mixed together, which is kind of what happened back in the day when I was running make debug on my operating system, and it was just running 2 commands with the ampersand symbol. The output of both commands was chained together into the terminal. So it's not a symlink, because it's not that this file becomes this one. It's that automatically the contents of this file get copied over to this one. Okay. One big thing that kind of really bothers me about the way that files are done, like how the file system reference the proccat out. What do you mean? By the way, when I say proccat out, that is just a shortcut for me to explain it easier. Really, it's just a process ID. Because you can have multiple instances of the terminal, multiple instances of cat running. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm just calling it like this. Yeah, so I mentioned that file descriptor 2 is hard-coded to be the print, so the standard output. And hacked together. Which is also why I said before that writing to input, which is currently not implemented, so that's not an issue that I have right now. But writing to input would have the same problem that I mentioned before with the out-of-sync things. Oh, the arrows. No, the arrows just mean that file descriptor 2 references this file, file descriptor 600 references this file, file descriptor 4000 references this file. And here it just means like the contents of this one get copied into the contents of this one, which get copied into the contents of this one. That's what it means. Okay, so there's that. And then there's also the fact that the scheduler has its own process open file structure here, which keeps track of the stuff that I mentioned. Symlink or reference? Yeah, but I'm not talking about referencing. I'm talking about, with the file descriptor, I'm really talking about like an index or an ID for a file. And with the other one, I'm talking about copying, not a symlink. Because like I said, you're creating a new file by taking the input from another file. essentially. Well, you're not creating a new file because it's the output of a process, but yeah. Yeah, so the way that it's designed right now, when you open a file, it gets opened into the process open file structure, which has a file ID, file size, buffer, process ID that opened it, whether to ignore the cursor, whether it's read-only. The cursor gets ignored for the state of the process, which is another thing, because that you always read the same 4 bytes. You don't read 4 bytes, then move forward. So it ignores the cursor in those cases. There's other places in which you can open files, and those are tracked internally. So they have their own structure like this one, which is kind of shit. Like the 9p and FAT32 drivers. They have an open files hash map. And that hash map is made out of just pointer, just a simple pointer for this one. And for this one, it is... I believe also just a pointer to a buffer. Yeah. And then, is there anywhere else that I have implemented opening files? Audio, random, oh, and console. What does console open do? Yeah, it just gives you a generic file descriptor. It doesn't do anything really. That's not right. For random, RNG open does the same thing. And the file descriptor is not global. Ooh, that's a problem. Boot partition open, this is the FAT32. Shared open is the 9p. And then the process one, okay. So it feels to me like I can have a global place where you just, you know, associate a file ID with a file, with a buffer. That feels reasonable. And this structure feels like the ideal one to keep track of that. Because it has the file ID, so the file ID that it was assigned, not necessary, but cool to have. The file size, the buffer, the process ID, ignore cursor, read only. So I want to globalize keeping track of this in the terminal. No, not in the terminal, the file system. So that the file system keeps track of all files that are opened. Hey, Sir Drippy. 6969. Okay, so that's probably start off with that. So having a global reference to a file. Someone tries to open that file, they access it through that global reference. Okay. Here's where things get a little bit complicated in how to structure this efficiently. Maybe I won't structure it efficiently right away, but it's an interesting thing to do. Okay, so I have hash maps, right? And with a hash map, I can do an open files hash map, right? And I can index it by the file ID that I'm given. So I open file ID 2, and I know what to look at. Cool. But files are kind of unique per file path. So really the way that it should access it is like like this. Yes, I am working on an OS right now. Okay, so essentially, like, the question is this structure, which, yes, you can import it. Cool. Oh, Command-Shift-V didn't work. Bro, you lied to me? Bro just fucking lied to me. What? Doesn't matter. Yeah, so like this is the structure that's going to keep track of the open files. How should you index it? By file path? Or by file ID? Or by something else? Ideally by file path, I think. But then there's the problem that the file path is lost and can even change, technically. There's currently no renaming of files, so that's a problem for the future. But yeah, I want to be able to index it by the file path. And I'm confused as to how I should do this. Maybe I should just start by globalizing the current array that I have now, which is a simple thing to do. And then consider how can I make it so that multiple file IDs can point to the same file in a global place. Well, actually, the easiest way to do that is to have a okay, let's do it like this. When I open a file, the fuck? When I open proc 8 out, this returns a file ID and a size for the file and an uninitialized cursor at 0, right? Cool. Well, and then I open the file again and it's given a new file ID. Ideally, what I want to have is an array somewhere that translates these file IDs into global IDs. And then a global files array that is indexed by the global ID that tells you things like the file's actual current size, the file's buffer pointer, that's it. The other things are not important. And then I also need to keep track of who opened the file for reading, who opened the file for writing. Okay. This is actually like quite complex territory, I feel like, but I'm kind of starting to wrap my head around it all. Not sure if it's making sense for you watching, but okay. So let me consider how I would do this. Okay, so I have two arrays. One of them keeps track of the global files. There's one per file. You open proc8 out 50 times, you only get one of these entries. And then there's the local IDs, which I should probably come up with a better name for them. You open the file 50 times, you get 50 of these local IDs. Right, and I dropped something. I don't know what it is. Okay, so the albums behind me. That one is Lux by Rosalia, and the other one is Arcas Kick 4. No. 3. No. 5. I don't know. She made like a million albums. Kick 5. Okay. Okay, yeah, I feel like, okay, this is somewhat making sense. So, the way that it will work, you open a file once, you create an instance of local IDs for this file. You're assigned the file ID, unique to your instance of the file. You're told the current size of the file. You're given a cursor initialized at 0. And then you do whatever you want with the file. You read, you write. And ideally, you should have to specify what operations you're allowed to do with the file, but okay. So that creates an entry into the local file IDs. You open the file again, or someone else opens the file again. They're given a new file descriptor pointing to the exact same file, and this one wants to write. Which again, these permissions are currently not a thing, so that doesn't matter, but yeah. Actually, you know what? We're just gonna ignore the thing that currently doesn't exist. Because what is the point of building something that doesn't exist right now? Okay, so you open a file, you're given two different IDs, both of them pointing you to the exact same global ID. The global ID 35 tells you the size of the file and the pointer to that file. In kernel memory, specifically. Okay, so when you open the file, you're told the local ID from here, the size from here, the cursor from here. You read from the file, you are the buffer that you pass gets filled in with contents from here with the cursor that you pass. You decide the cursor. It's not even stored here. Based on this size. Okay. All right. So that's what I want to implement. I want to have a global instance of a file that the kernel has one time, and a local instance of a file that you can have multiple ones of. Local is not the best word for it, because it's not really a local file. Like, they're all local files. And then I'm gonna do like networked file system. So maybe local is not, local and global are maybe not the best words for it, but I don't know what to call them. Instance. Okay. So I'm actually not gonna use anything that I have. I'm hopefully gonna get rid of this structure and all of those things. So let me make sure that I'm working off of a clean working tree. Should I commit back to main? Well, main's just sitting there. So kind of. Let me just make sure. That's the wrong. Make ruin. No, don't do that. Okay, this process works. 2 instances of it work. Terminal could crash, but genuinely, why would you use the terminal? Wait, here it works. All right, can we try another one? Using JavaScript? Yes, I am. Okay, this one crashes. Like I said, don't care too much about that. No, the Hail Mary movie thing, no, I haven't seen that. Okay, you can open multiple terminals as long as you don't cat. Cat just breaks, so just dog instead, please. All right, but with that, we're just going back to main. And yeah, the marquee is changing every minute. You should make the UI in React. How did I not think of that? Actually, you know what? Doing it by pull request just for the fun of it. Okay, and officially I have no more open pull requests. Amazing. Yeah, sometimes it crashes, so you can see there's a little bit of a race condition going on. Sometimes it works. But no point in fixing that when we're going to redesign the entire system. So I already have that. Wow. I already had this and I didn't even know. I did vaguely remember something about this. and it points to the driver module that opens the file. Would you look at that? Doing stuff off stream? Oh, because of this? No, this is just from a long time ago. Pretty sure I did this on stream, if anything. I just completely forgot. I knew about it, which is why I looked up this open thing, because I knew it. I just couldn't prove it. No, I've proven it. I knew that was a thing. All right, so there is the local descriptor. All right, I need to think for a second about how to engineer this, and there's an ant coming up, so I'll be back in 3 minutes. All right, we're back. I was looking at the stream manager on Twitch and the stream manager on OBS, which is still the same one from Twitch. They disagree on whether there was an ad running or not. The one on OBS said there was, the one on Twitch said no, and the stream manager said no. Yeah. I don't understand why all streaming software seems so janky. Why does it all feel that way? I really don't get it. All right, so yeah, caught working off stream apparently. because found out that I have a global list of file descriptors, which simply associates the file size and the file ID to the module that it belongs to. And then, let me guess, does it check the file size at all? No, it doesn't. Okay. Okay. So yeah, this thing here. It directs you to the correct module that contains that file, essentially. Which is, yeah, okay. But what happens if I get rid of this? I'm pushing to it. I'm opening it. See, here I'm hacking together to make sure that there is okay, let's not refactor ahead of time here. No, yeah. That's this one's gonna be needed anyway. Okay, so that's correct. You look for a file, you open it, and then you go to. Okay, so we're literally just keeping track of which file descriptor goes to which module, and then that's it. This is a good candidate for the global file descriptor thing, because it's currently not being used a lot, but yeah. No, not really. Okay. Redesigning the entire system, probably not super easy. Also need to look at what audio is doing, because I don't know what's going on here. When you open a file, you just reserve an ID. That's it. You don't even keep track of it. Cool. Okay. Well. Okay. Who else is reading? The process can read files. Shared and boot can read files. RNG can read files. KIO can read files, and readbin can read files. Okay, so I'm thinking how to do this. Okay. So right now I have this one, and then internally each of the modules has a reference to the file, which itself contains a you know, the buffer that the file belongs to, the file size, all of that stuff. So maybe this one, it shouldn't be the look, this should be the instance. Okay, so I can tell a file, hey, or a module, hey, can you open this file for me, please? It will return a global ID. If you open the same file for two different places, it will return the same ID. And then this code here will be responsible for creating a new file ID for it and doing that translation. That's I feel like this is confusing as fuck. I'm not even fully sure I know what I'm doing, but let's just do it. So when you open a process right now, you are given a file global ID. Okay, so we're going to create this new function to reserve a global file ID. And whereas these file descriptors are hard-coded and reserved, this one starts at 0. Okay. Okay, so the first step of what I'm doing is going to be to make it so that each of the modules of the file system internally uses the same ID for the same files. So I open proc 8 out, I always get file ID 7. So I'm going to use the reserve global ID instead of the reserve ID, because these are different now. Oh, forgot the return statement here. And then each file system will need to keep track of the file that I opened belongs to this buffer. Yeah, I can do it by buffer, actually. That's super convenient. Oh, but when it comes to 9p, okay. Holy hell, I'm so confused right now as to how I should do this. Okay. The file system, the modules, the file system internals will only open a file once. So it should always use the same ID, which means if you try to open the same file multiple times, we should keep track of which files have already been opened and tell you, okay, this is it. We already have it for you. We don't have to get it. Except when it comes to networked, those can change. But that's not a problem. Okay, let's not bother with networked right now. What the fuck am I talking about? So I need to put as the key the path. Let me try with 9p first. The key. No, there's double keys. Oh my god. I'm lost. I am lost. Okay. Let me just do this, okay? I want to open a file. Let's call it file 1. Vertio 9p is a file system protocol for networked file systems. Okay, I want to open a file 1, at which point I need to be given a instance ID, which is going to be 3, and a global ID, which is going to be 30. Then I need to open file 1 again, which will give me a new instance ID and the same global ID because it is referring to the same file. Okay, let's ignore the instance IDs for a second right now because we don't care about those, and look just at the global IDs. The global ID for a file should be the file's how about the file's hash? It's probably the easiest way for me to do this. Okay. Hamilton? What? Like the race car driver? Or the, like, founding father of the US? I'm assuming the race car driver, also because of my last name. Ferrari qualification session. Oh no. No, that's just my last name. I'm not into the car stuff. Okay, instead of reserving a global ID, I am just going to... Can I hash it? Can I hash the damn thing? Yeah, that's my actual last name. That's why I have that name. Pretty sure the hash map is implementing... I get questioned about it a little bit, yes. This stuff, right? Produces a uint64. Oh my god, I don't understand hashing. It's not ideal to use a hash because it can always fail. Holy hell, this is complicated. There's a lot to consider. But if I'm not mistaken, this goes through the data and then does this. Yeah, this should give me a hash. Okay, so this is what I want. Which right now is implemented in hashmap.h, but that's not ideal. I should be able to do c hashmap f that with path and size no, strlen path 0 to use a global ID for a file. Shared between the host and React OS. That's what 9p does. in the context of QEMU. It's for a shared file system over network, but QEMU implements it as a device, as a hardware device. So yeah, that's essentially what it's doing. So as with most hashing functions, this one can have collisions, but for the time being, I'm expecting it not to have collisions. For the love of God, please don't have collisions. And it is just going to, so you go back to the way you were before, reserve a global ID with the data and the data length. Just take a char pointer path. And you gotta include the data struct hash map.h. Then we're gonna update the signature for it. Boom. Okay. So now we can reserve a file, a global ID for the file. With a const char. My God, pedantic piece of. There. For FAT32, we're going to do the same thing. You're opening a file. We give you a global ID, always the same, based on the hash of the file. Audio. We're just going to use a hard-coded one. Scheduler. This is where it gets interesting. You are going to use a... Am I modifying the path here? Shit, I shouldn't be doing that. You're going to use the full path, which is /number/out. I believe it doesn't include /proc. Maybe it should include /proc, because otherwise that kind of destroys the purpose of it. Yeah. Alright, I'm okay with there being a little bit of collisions here and there. I don't think there's going to be any collisions, actually. The path, I'm pretty sure here needs to be hard-coded to /console. Always the same. And then, is there any more? No. Cool. Okay. So now, to test if this worked, the cat is not opening the file. Can I go back to before when it was opening the file? That's utils, no. Bin cat.c. At some point I wasn't using the hard-coded file here, which currently won't work very well. this exact change, actually. Oh, I see. Oh, shit. Yeah, never mind. I can't really check. If two processes are opening the same file, this one is opening it through standard output. So oh, what I can do is check if everything still works. I doubt it, though. Genuinely surprised me? Okay. Okay. Oh well. Oh well. Well. I'm surprised that this works. Because when you read a file using a file descriptor in the file system, that file's never been opened. Oh, but when you write to it, to do this is ugly. Yes, it is. Here's the thing. When you write to a file and the file is this, right? It's fd out. Then I need to manually update any files that use the same name. Opening file /8/out. Okay. Reasonable. So what I want to do in this thing here is holy hell, I'm confused as to how I'm gonna do this. Okay, yeah, I know how to do this. If the file ID is the reserved fd out, then what we're going to do is we're going to use this to open the file ourselves, which is done through the open proc. And we're going to update the file descriptor with the ID that we're given. And how are we going to do that? We're going to need to create this ID. Okay. So if we're using the standard input, standard output, I mean, file descriptor, then what we will do is open a global instance of the file. This won't be needed anymore. This won't be needed anymore. This won't be needed anymore. And actually, this shouldn't be needed anymore because we're already keeping track of the file size that's increasing. So we have a global pointer to that file now. Is that the case? Holy hell, if this works first try, I'm gonna be so happy. No, stands to reason it wouldn't. But it didn't crash, so that's good. That's a good sign. Okay, here's how this is gonna work. Actually, std output for process proc ID with file descriptor. Well, is it li? Is that valid? It looks valid. With file descriptor being descriptor ID. Okay, and it looks like the file is being opened twice, indeed. Opened std output for process 8 with fd. Very big number. Which is very correct, in fact. Um, To debug, we're going to see how much data we're reading. Attempting to read from file of size and cursor. Close enough. Okay. Size, file size, cursor. And then here, translating reserved FID to regular FID. Okay. 000, cool. Okay, opened std output for process 8 with this file descriptor here. And open std output for process 8 with this one here. So it is being opened twice. It is being given the exact same file ID. And yet, all of the data is now 0. Oh, well, the first one shouldn't be 0. The last two are okay being 0. That's wrong. Misspelled it entirely. Which is why, well, that doesn't matter actually. We're looking at the standard output of this process. So, indeed, it is working. But the file size is 0. And why would that be? When well, I kind of fucked up there a little bit. Writing 3000 and then 3000 again, that should not happen. Attempting to read 100 from file of size 6000 and cursor 0. That should work. And it did. It did work. Holy shit. It didn't even look. Okay. So the sync the sync issue that I mentioned is still happening. And yet this works. And the best part is I am not opening multiple files at the same time because I just have one global file descriptor. It's always the same. Obviously, I'm going to want multiple instances of a file being open, but that translation is going to be done outside of these modules. So for the time being, I would say this is working pretty well. And I got rid of the ugly code, but I did notice another issue. It says that I wrote 3000, which is the size of the file that we're trying to read, which is ridiculous. Instead, we want to limit that size to the maximum output of the buffer. They spent an hour trying to boot an ISO and QEMU. Turns out I get the bootloader binaries. It downloaded HTML instead of the binary. Amazing. Ah, the classic. Save as and you save the HTML. Okay. So this is kind of a stupid change. Because like now my file system is relying entirely on global file descriptors based on the path hash, by the way, which is stupid as hell. But that's part of the refactor that I want to do probably on Monday. I'm not going to do it today. But okay, this works, and I got rid of that issue. I now have one single source of truth for what constitutes the contents of a file. You want to update your file, you want to read from the file, you want to write to the file, it all happens to the same place with the same index, a global index, and so it is more reliable. But of course, right now the userland processes are being given the exact same file descriptor for the exact same file, which means you can also technically access a file that doesn't belong to you by just using its hard-coded file descriptor. So obviously I'm not going to keep it that way. That's just part of moving where the files are reserved and all that stuff. That's going to be done externally. But I'm good with this for now. Okay. So actually a better way to draw this entire diagram is let's come up with a file like, I don't know. What's a standard file that everyone can use? Let's just say documents hello.txt. No, not 3. You're given 4. Okay, so I feel like this is a lot easier to explain than whatever the hell this was. Okay, so I have two processes opening the same file. When they do that, they will be given different IDs, but internally those IDs will both point to the same global ID for a file, which is simply going to reference a buffer pointer and buffer size. So I want to write to process 4, then process 4 to file 4, that gets translated to ID 50, which has one pointer and one size. And so I write to it. I want to read from it. I want to read from, I'm now in another process. I want to read from file 3. It gets translated to the exact same pointer. So the exact same pointer in size, which get updated. There's now one instance of every file open in the system. So I would say, yes, it's going well. However, the way that it's currently implemented, we don't use a file instance ID. We just use the global ID directly. The second part of this is that also technically the file system is divided into modules. And right now, global ID 50 lives inside of this module. Global ID 79 lives in a different module. And each of those modules has their own hash map for those file IDs. So I'll get rid of that. I'll instead want to just put them all together, separate that from the whole like module thing. Although I still want to keep track of the modules. And actually, the way that it's going to work is on top of keeping track of this, it is going to keep track of which module pointer it belongs to, so that the module can handle this. But I'm okay with them being separate for now. Maybe I'll keep them separate for now. Okay. So step 2 of that is going to be implement. I'm going to do this in the file system refactor branch. Because, like I said, the way that it's done right now, we're using the global IDs directly. We're not translating those IDs. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to, I don't want that on the main branch anyway. And I'm also hashing, like I'm getting the global file as a hash, which is not ideal. Good. Gonna get rid of this print. This print as well. No, not the whole thing, just these lines. Then this line here, just the debugs essentially. And I already got rid of the ugly sync stuff that was going on, so that's cool. Maybe I won't bother with the global IT stuff just yet. Like separating that into, instead of different modules in just one module, maybe I won't bother with that yet. Because that's a little bit of a pain in the ass. At the end of the day, the modules should control that. It's just an organization issue. I don't know. Okay. 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 Looks good to me. Looks good to me. Today's not Sunday. Let's go. Right? So excited about it not being Sunday. Actually, not ahead of refactor. This is very much the beginning of the refactor. Probably the most important part of the refactor is actually that, what I just did. Because, if I want to pipe two files together now, I can. Interesting. Quite interesting, quite interesting. All right. I feel like my brain is at capacity right now for this type of stuff. I have no idea what the next step should be. So I'm gonna leave that part for Monday, most likely. Because I am streaming tomorrow, but it's gonna be unrelated. And I am streaming later today as well, but it's also gonna be unrelated. Both of those are gonna be related to game development. What is PC for time in the marquee schedule? Did I write PC? I wouldn't be surprised. Where do I need to go here? It was supposed to be PM. 6:30 p.m. and 2 p.m. UTC, not PC. I didn't notice that. Thank you. I fixed it, but we won't know until it is fully fixed. Until it cycles back to that one. Okay. So it's currently 7 p.m. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna continue my file system refactor stuff on Monday. And can't find me on Twitch. You can do !Twitch. That should give you the link because I changed it. It's now my name instead of developed from scratch. So yeah, I changed the URL technically. But you do !Twitch, you should be getting a link to it. Okay. I mentioned, let me see if it works. For continue. Okay, good, it works. Is it the correct link? Yes, it is. There I am. Hi. It's a little bit delayed. All right, there it is. Actually, let's see how long we can keep the recursion going. I'm just gonna wait for a little bit so that I can see all the different versions of me waving. Look at that. There's 4. There's 5 for you if you're watching me on top of this. So okay, how deep does the rabbit hole go? Watch me find a vulnerability in Twitch and just destroy it or something. All right. So, this is the end of whatever the fuck this is. I mentioned I've been wanting to do a hacking game for a while. And I'm not turning sound on. That's just gonna destroy us all. So today, later today, I'm going to schedule a stream in a couple hours and going to check out some hacking games to, see hacking mechanics that exist in various games. to take a little bit of inspiration from those. And then tomorrow I'm going to do an off-brand, an off-topic stream that where I'm going to be working a little bit on my game engine for my game, but also for my operating system. I built it mostly in October, although most of its code is actually within the game that I made in October, so I'm gonna move a lot of that over. I'm going to refactor a little bit, fix it, clean it up a little bit ahead of working on a hacking game. So I'm gonna work on the engine until I have figured out what kind of game I want to make. So that's gonna be the plan for tomorrow. That way I can, disconnect a little bit from the operating system high stakes development going on, which, especially now that I've been working on virtual memory, has been a pain in the ass. Okay, so let's say it's currently 7 p.m. So a more chill game stream at 9 p.m. So 2 hours from now, where again, I'm just going to check out some hacking games. Maybe I mentioned also checking out Project Zomboid, which in terms of gameplay it actually has a lot of the same things that I'm interested in. It's surprisingly very similar to a life sim, despite being a survival game. So a lot of the mechanics that it has, a lot of the gameplay, zombies aside, is similar to what I want, but also the aesthetic of it is similar to what I want. So maybe I'll also check out that. All of that in 2 hours. And then tomorrow's stream, that's going to be the game development stream, is going to be at same as today. The one that actually is right there, under there. It's going away now. 2 p.m. UTC, PM, not PC. 2 p.m. UTC. That's the correct thing. Have you seen any videos by Nathan Bags? Hacking Unity games for fun. Oh, this is actual hacking. I'm more so talking about like a game about hacking, not hacking a game. But that's interesting. I'll check him out after the stream. All right. So if you want to play games, 2 hours from now. If you want to watch me work on a game engine, tomorrow, 2 p.m. UTC. If you don't want to do any of that, Monday, 6:30 p.m. UTC. So the one that's actually scrolling, it just disappeared. The one that was just scrolling down there, 6:30 p.m. UTC on Monday, I'm going to continue working on the file system. With that, I'm going to do a raid on Twitch because I saw something when I opened Twitch that I was interested in. So if anyone on YouTube is interested in joining on the raid, I'm going to link you to it. Yeah, this is reverse engineering games. I'm talking about hacking in games. So, yeah, I'll look at the games later because I have a few, but I don't remember their names right now. All right. If you're interested in joining the raid, there's the link. If not, I will see you later today, tomorrow, Monday, or never. That depends on you. All right. Thank you, YouTube. I'm going to end the stream on there, and we're going to jump to